Hi, Kerryn. Welcome to my interview series. It's a wrap with Roger. Now, I know you, don't I?
Yeah, parts of me. Yeah.
How did that happen? Tell us about it.
Oh, when did I first meet you? Oh gosh. When did I meet you?
I knew I'd put you on the spot. That's a good place to start an interview, is put you on the spot.
No,
What?
it's good because I'm going through all the times we've like hung out with one another or North Island, South Island, and I'm like backtracking. So it's a good thing. I'm having time with every moment till I think it was the tuning fork and I was opening for Wallace Bird.
You got
Was
it. You got it.
Yeah. Yes. But in the meantime, I got all those memories as well from every time in between too. So that's a great intro. I'll take it. That's a good.
Well, I don't think we need to share all the details about that, but indeed, we've seen each other quite a bit over the last couple of years. Happily for me, because I just think you're great, and even though I've written about you, quite a lot, this is a new gig, and I think this is probably the first time that music.net.nz has heard from you, because you just put up your artist page a month or so ago. So there's likely to be new readers who are hearing about you for the first time. So tell me, we might just go over a bit of old ground. What was it like growing up in the King Country?
It was so fun. My childhood was super fun. It was just packed full of, I guess like country kid freedom, rivers and rafts and BMX bikes and metal piles and old huts and cool country living. And then of course I got really sick at age 11, so from there on it was all over. But that little part of growing up in the King Country is divine.
And you got really, really sick. Just touch on that briefly. People need to know that.
I'd spent like age 11 through to pretty much the end of my teenage years just really battling a bone disease that meant I spent months away from my family. I spent a lot of time in hospital. I had a lot of surgeries. I had a whole different life at the same time as trying to maintain some kind of small town country teenage high school life, simultaneously. So it was a real interesting experience. And now it's a full-time job managing chronic illness, but I think I do it pretty fabulously.
That's right. You wouldn't know, but it's part of you, isn't it? It's part of your essence, and it would have broken many people, but in a way, it's made you.
In every way. And I was just, real grateful that maybe to bring in that small town King Country love is that, going through something as a kid with a great community that has got you and your family through this. I was really privileged to be able to frame my illness as a real gift and a real making of your character and who you're going to be and how you're going to see the world and how it's going to affect your ability to love and be, full of empathy and joy and gratitude. And I was really grateful for the full spectrum of support that I got through that, which definitely constructed this character that,
building, not many, you wouldn't wish it on anybody, but not many people get the opportunity. And along the way, we heard about your grandfather going to see a whole lot of men about dogs.
So how far away? What was the question?
We heard about your grandfather going to see men about dogs.
Oh yeah, at the pub, the Quota Club is like a feature of my live shows, like because I talk about my dad and my grandfather and kind of the small town living and the big personalities that they are. Certainly my grandfather saw many, many men about many dogs over many years down at the local.
Okay, and at last we've got the Sophomore album, Water, and it's out. And I learned from the record company blurb that it all started with a marriage breakup. What? I didn't know about that. I hope I didn't have anything to do with it.
No, wow, yeah, it did start with the whole thing was unexpected. Yeah, a big breakup is always like a catapult in life. You have to go deep on yourself if you stand a chance at surviving the heartbreak and the shock of it. So it was kind of, yeah, I'm always going to write. I write all the time. So whatever's going on in my life is going to be written deeply into what I'm creating. And my marriage ended like the day I launched my first record. So it was pretty straight away in terms of writing this record, and yeah, that whole process.
My guess is you've got through it.
Yeah, and then some.
Okay, let's talk about Water. Now, I've already written my review, so I'm saying nothing because I'm going to publish that in the next. Except I love it, and what's already written, will stay written unless I've made an enormous fuck up. But it's my right and it's my privilege to interpret, right? But let's have a second opinion. Let's have a second opinion is what I'm after from the creator. Yeah, tell us about the album.
It's a love story. Water is a, I guess, like an adventure into love, loving yourself, loving someone else, loving life. And that's the dark bits, the shit bits, and the good bits and the weird bits. And I just didn't hold anything back when it comes to the topic of love, which I guess is what Water is all about as well, taking it to the water and letting it go, and letting it be what it'll be. But I loved making Water. I loved writing it. I loved hating it. I loved recording it under the full moon. I loved telling stories and finding parts of myself that needed airing out and finding a really beautiful way to do that and let that go for myself. So yeah, I'm really in love with this record. It feels magical to me.
And you write, always write by yourself? Do you collaborate at all?
I team up with other songwriters and we go song for song as a discipline, to stay active as a songwriter and a practicing creative. I do a lot of exercises and collaborations, but not songwriting, more like supportive teamwork kind of stuff. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of it, especially after doing such a personal record. I feel like I could be a lot more open, a lot more space to create together rather than just...
So clearly these are all your own songs, 100% you, but there's a band and there's a recording process. So tell us about that.
So the recording of the album happened in a house down the Great Ocean Road. Josh Barber plays drums and Ben Franz plays bass, and Ben was on my first record, Rascal. Yeah. So I know Ben quite well. He's a terrific player. He plays with so many great bands, and I teamed up with Fraser from the Avery Studios in Collingwood, and he's quite close with Josh, who plays drums, and Josh and Ben play a lot together. And so I kind of came into this little world and took the three fellas out of their comfort zone and into this house and laid out a record of storytelling and energetic architecture and unknown spaces and no soundproofing and everything on the table, and just made this glorious record of time.
Just strikes me, we better tell people that you're actually in Melbourne.
I am in Melbourne. I am
Otherwise, I don't recognize all of those all of those names.
Yeah. Well, Fraser Montgomery is a producer engineer with myself on Water, and he has a cool studio in Collingwood. For those that don't know Melbourne, yeah, he's a really great dude who's brought to life a few awesome records, and yeah, there you go. There's
what's your favorite song on the album?
Atlantis.
Mm.
Yeah.
Why did I think you'd say that?
Because you want me to say it.
And if I were to have guessed, that's the one I would have picked.
Yeah. I mean, look, they've all got a relationship and an equality to them. Of course, they're all my little children. But yeah, Atlantis was one that, yeah, just the recording of it, the process of running down to the ocean and gargling the water and running back and FaceTiming my love and having this little moment with the band where I'm like, okay, so this is a real person I'm singing about and a real love, and let's do it, and nailing it and delivering it. The cockatoos screeching in the trees and my Kiwi heart just like cracking up laughing and and thinking, this is great. This is exactly how a big love song like this should be done. So I love it. There's a lot of it lived up to its feeling.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely way up there. I from a visceral point of view, I also really love Out on the Porch.
Cool. I love them all. I could talk about them for hours, Roger. Like,
sure. Oh, sure, and I touch on some in the review, but do you know the Reverend Peyton and his big damn band? No. Well, no, he's one of the more fabulous exponents of porch music in the US, out of the US, and I can just see him. Because you're out on the porch and you're drinking Johnny Cash and you're smoking Willie Nelson, but you're going to die out there. What's missing are the last rites, and I could just imagine the Reverend Peyton there performing those. And the image that comes to my mind would be a fantastic gig where you guys are on it together. That's all. So you got to check him out if you don't know. That's it.
Oh, thank you.
That's my tip of the week.
Thank you.
What else are you listening to? What's your favorite song or album by someone else?
At the moment, I'm listening to Liz Stringer. She's in Melbourne. And she's released just a terrific record. First time really feeling. There's a song on it called The Meteorologist, which will just floor you sideways. We might as well just say our goodbyes, because once you hear it, that's it. But otherwise, for the past year, solid, and no surprise, but for like solid, just listening to Red Fountain, and just falling in love with all of her clips she's been making, I think with her whānau, I'm not sure who it is.
Her daughter's the producer, yeah.
Oh gosh, of course. Like, I'm just going, oh gosh, what a wahine, like, yeah. So those would be like my two. Liz just released her record recently, and of course released her last album, not the one she's got now, but when I was home in New Zealand, and she was the last artist I saw too before I flew back to Melbourne in Raglan. I was like, yeah. So anyway,
it's been a fabulous journey watching her emerge these last 3 years. It's just been beautiful to watch. Yeah, no, that's a new one for me, Liz Stringer.
Yep.
How's Mimi Gilbert getting on? You introduced her to me.
Oh, she's in. I mean, I just say I respond like that because she's such a, oh God, what a great human. She's in the United States. Her sweet Taylor is in New Zealand, waiting for her visa to get to the States. So if Taylor's tuning in, New Zealand world, kia ora, and fingers crossed for all this crazy, wow, yeah. So that's Mimi. She's waiting on a love and back home in California.
Okay, too far away. I was hoping that, you know, you might bring her out here.
Oh, I'm sure she'll be back. She's well loved by many magicals here in the Southern Hemisphere.
The other name I'll mention just quickly, because it's someone I just found a month or two ago, and he did a gig on Friday night. It was a guy called Graham James. Have you heard of Graham James?
I have now.
Yeah, there you go. There's one to check out. He's just done something on the Four Seasons, and it's a metaphor for life. And he's kind of a philosopher, folky. And so I've been thinking a lot. He's caused me to do a lot of thinking, sort of philosophical thinking. And I was wondering who your favorite philosopher was as well. Who's your favorite philosopher?
My favorite philosophical folk singer is Scott Cook.
Scott
Cook.
Oh, where's he from?
Canada. Well, he's actually from the States, but he's from Canada. And he played Auckland Folk Festival 2019. It must have been, or 2020. Might have been 2020. When did we last? God, who knows?
He wasn't. I was there last year for the first time. He wasn't there last year, no.
He released a record, Tangle of Souls.
Okay.
Last year. It's got a song called Say Can You See? That's a great song, and he's a great thinker and word human, and yeah, I love him to bits.
Okay, I've given you 2 tips. You've given me 2 tips. So that now belongs to everybody, because once you've created it, it's out there. Can't avoid the question, what's happening in Australia? It's pretty stuffed up at the moment, eh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, everything is. If you're asking specifically about live music, yes, that is.
Yeah.
Heart-achingly bad. Yeah. Yeah, I just had a few festivals I was playing. We've all had those festivals cancelled. But yeah, they just keep coming.
So you can't tour the album, you can't do anything, you're stuck, huh?
No, I wouldn't say that. Like there's different ways to release a record, and you don't have to take such a linear approach or touring a record. And, you know, a record has a lot of legs, a lot of songs, a lot of stories, and a lot of time. So I've managed to play shows where I can. We've got the trio and the band shows, and there's things booked, and, you know, you just have this hopeful, wish-washy way of going about playing live. But I guess it's also trying to navigate your digital world and communicating with the people that are still out there, but you've got a different way of finding and playing to them. So the tour will happen. It might be just like a 2-year drawn out legend slog. Yeah.
But people will quickly understand that your songs have got long life, so that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like that with water, especially. Like, for me personally, it just feels like a body of water, a body of work, a record of time that isn't supposed to be rushed or put out there or marketed in a way that feels like it's supposed to be fresh and now. Like, I just feel like, oh wow, that is like, that is a huge load of that can just sit there and do whatever it wants. Have a nice time. I'll be over here writing like cheesy pop songs now, because that's all I've got left in me.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that, please. Well, what about heading back here and enjoying our freedom, as long as we've got it, of course? Oh,
for sure. Like, look, I spent 8 months in New Zealand in 2020, and that was a God-given gift. But to come back is a big ask. I have a partner in Australia, and that is how I got to be back in Australia. I can't imagine I would have potentially come back to Melbourne so soon anyway, or whatever, if I didn't have my love in my life here. So it's really, really, really fucking hard. My brother's here, and the rest of my entire generational crazy family is all over New Zealand. It's really tough. Yeah, I'd love to be back playing, being with my family, having pockets with my grandma on Sunday, like all the things you just take for granted as a frivolous child of the Anzacs who has taken great advantage of a bridge that has not been closed in this lifetime. And it's a very real, frightening experience.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough time.
It is. Yeah. So we're hanging in there, my friend. We're hanging in there.
Well, as you will see from my writing, I love the album, and it's fantastic. I can only congratulate you. And obviously we've seen some of the songs live already, but can't wait to see the whole body of work played. Your turn. Any questions?
No, I'm good. You okay?
I'm good. And I think on that note, it probably just about wraps it up.
Awesome.